or not. Proverbs 11:30 says, "The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that winneth souls is wise." So it is a biblical term calling it soul winning. And same thing when I mentioned that we got people saved. In Jude 1:23, it says, "And others saved with fear, pulling them out of the fire, hating even the garments spotted by the flesh." Obviously, we know that Jesus is the one that does the saving, but we're the ones that give the gospel and get them saved. So a little bit of background. Pine Ridge is the 8th largest reservation in the U.S. at just under 3,500 square miles. Largest anyways in landmass. They have about 28 to 29,000 people of the Dakota Sioux, actually the Oglala Lakota Sioux. And actually while we're down there, one of the guys that I went soul winning with, he's a tall guy, he's about 6'6". They gave him an Indian name and called him Dakota, and that means giant. So I thought that was kind of interesting. The rest of us were just Washichu, which means a white man. So Pine Ridge is comprised of small towns and rural areas, so it's kind of spread out all over the place. But 53.75% of people in Pine Ridge live in poverty. And compare that to the rest of the U.S., where it's just under 16%. And you know it's pretty poor there. It has 2 of the 5 poorest communities in the U.S. in this reservation. Number 1 poorest was there, Allen. Me and Michael didn't wind up going, I don't know if the other guys did. And then Wounded Knee, that was number 4. And if you've ever heard anything about Wounded Knee, there was a big massacre that happened there, I think it was in 1890, where the Army killed 150 people there. 1 in 4 children suffer from fetal alcohol syndrome, or fetal alcohol spectrum disorder on that reservation. So the question is, why did we go? Well, there's a couple of reasons. The last thing Jesus told his disciples before he left, in Mark 16, verse 15, if you want to turn your Bibles there. Mark 16, verse 15. And this is the last thing he said to them before he left and to go to heaven. It says, "And he said unto them, Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature." So, obviously they're creatures, they're God's creatures, but it's partly a selfish reason too, because Jesus told us to go to the poor first, and in our experience soul winning this last year, the poor seemed to be more receptive, and this was no exception. And it was kind of, we wanted to get some low-hanging fruit so we could get some rewards. So it was partly a selfish reason on our part, and plus it's good experience, it gives us good confidence if we get that success. So on our trip down there, we had a little bit of issues. Left Friday right after work. We drove just till midnight. We got to Pierre, South Dakota, and we got to the hotel and we found out we had a flat tire. I don't know, we didn't notice it before that, but I don't know how we didn't notice that, but anyway. We tried filling it with our compressor, but it didn't hold air. So then we went on our phones and we found out there was a tire shop just down the street there. So we filled it up with air in the morning, and Google said it was open at 7:30. So we got there 7:30. Can you patch a tire? Yeah, but my employees only get here at 8. So we had to wait till 8. And we're supposed to be at Wounded Knee at 10:30, or sorry, at 10. That's when the other guys were going to be there. So just before 8, the employee gets there and he patches our tire and we can get on the road. The good thing is we had an hour time change, so we were only half an hour late. We made it to Wounded Knee by 10:30. And the good thing is, other guys actually got delayed a little bit too. On the way there, I think it was on the way there, right? They saw a dead horse on the side of the road. And so they pulled over and looked at it, and I think as they were there, a different vehicle pulls up, and it was that lady's horse. And what happened is, I guess a vehicle hit it or something. But they gave the lady the gospel, and she wound up getting saved. So I think God probably killed that horse just so that lady could get saved there. So that was good. But anyway, we got there at 10:30, and the guys were already paired up. There's, like I said, 6 other guys, so 3 teams of 2. So I talked to the one guy. He said, just me and Michael go together. So we went to a house, and well, I hadn't been gone soul winning for a few weeks already, or probably a couple months in the winter. But okay, yeah, I'll do it. And first house we get to, a vehicle's just arriving. And I asked the lady if she knew, I asked the one lady if she knew for sure if she was going to heaven when she died. And she says, well, my sister's a pastor. She's over there in the car. And she's just walking up to me there. I said, well, do you know for sure you're going to heaven when you die? And she says, yeah, I'm a pastor. And this was a lady, so a woman, so obviously not a biblical pastor. But anyway, I went through the gospel presentation with her, and I asked her if there's anything she could do to lose her salvation. Yeah, she thought she could. So I went over it and showed her it was everlasting life and all those different things, and she actually wound up getting saved. And I didn't go into Titus 1 or 1 Timothy 3 with her, because I just asked if there was somebody else I could get saved. I wasn't going to get into doctrine with her. Yeah, well, or talk to her about the gospel. Her sister was in the house, so I knock on the door, and Michael and I do, and we ask her the same questions, and she invites us in, and we go through the gospel, and she says, well, I got a question for you. Because one of the things we do when we're soul winning, once we think that they understand that Jesus died for them and all those different things, we ask them if there's anything you could do to lose it. And if they say, well, no, it's eternal life. And they say, well, then we kind of throw some trick questions at them. Well, what about murder? What about suicide? Well, and that kind of brought up a question for her. Her daughter had a friend that committed suicide. And she asked a question about that. And she called her daughter over there, and she wanted to, so that she could hear it too. So I went through the gospel presentation, and actually both of them got saved. So 3 people at that one house, so it was really receptive. After that, we went to another house. It was Michael's turn to preach the gospel, but that lady seemed to be kind of drunk. She didn't seem to understand. So we left there, and then we were just walking down the street, and then 2 of the other guys, Duncan and Dan, came walking up, and then he sees we're carrying a Bible, and he hadn't met us before. Only one of the group that we've ever met before was Doug Trowbridge. So he comes up to us and says, are you guys Christians? And I just laugh, and I say, hey, we're with you guys, we're with the same group. We're from Manitoba, so it's pretty good. And so then we split off. Michael went with Dan Quirk, and I went with Duncan Urbanik. And that was good. And almost immediately after we left there's a boy, I don't know, he might have been 8, he might have been 10 years old, standing on the street. So I just started giving him the gospel. And he got it. And because Duncan was there, I said, was there anything else you want to add? And he just kind of checks a few other things, like, is there anything you can do to lose it? Does it last forever? What if you do this? What if you do that? And he got it. So he prayed and called upon the name of the Lord, and he got saved. So that was really good. Wounded Knee was really receptive. Like I said, it was the 4th worst place in the U.S. And what you say, about 25 houses that we knocked there, and we got 24 people saved. So it's really low-hanging fruit there. It's really receptive. And just about every house we went, we could give the gospel. There's maybe a few, and Wounded Knee, I don't know if there was any that we couldn't. Some, like, say, there's some guys ran into drunk people that couldn't understand it, but I mean, one day if they never hear the gospel again before that, they're going to be wishing that they had been sober that day. Yeah. Then the guys had bought some stuff at Walmart or something for lunch, so we just had lunch at the vehicles there. And then we drove to a town called Manderson. It was 9 miles away. Manderson was a little bit different. I'll get into that a little later. When we split up, there was a little bit of a hill, and we said, okay, we'll go up and start at the top of the hill and work our way down. And I was still paired with Duncan. We started at a house actually lower down. And there was 3 girls standing outside, kind of there was a ramp, and he starts giving them the gospel. And, some of them are playing on their phones while he's doing it. He says, this is very important. Like, either you want to listen or you don't. So he got them to put the phones away, and he preaches to them. And 2 out of the 3 actually wound up getting saved. The 3rd one didn't believe. And then we knocked the door, nobody's home, and then we went to another one. An older lady got saved, named Teresa. And then we crossed the street, and there was a lady standing outside, and Duncan starts giving her the gospel. And then she says, hey, what about those girls over there? They need Jesus. They're walking down the street there. I think she was just trying to get rid of us. And so, hey, come over here. We want to, I started asking them, if they know for sure. And then once we turn her back, she's gone, like yesterday's wind. And so anyways, he gave the gospel to these, there was 4 girls and a little 2-year-old, approximately 2-year-old boy, I'm just guessing. And he goes over the gospel quite thoroughly with them. One left during the presentation, but the little boy was starting to act up. And we had bought the group had bought some blankets, and these little fleece blankets. And he was starting to act up and cause some distraction, and the one girl wanted to take him away to his mom. And I just said, can I give him a present? So I gave him this camouflage blanket, and he was just happy. He left us alone the rest of the time. He could preach the gospel, and he got 3 of those girls saved. Michael's experience, well, actually, just before I get to Michael's experience, so then we went back to that house where that lady was. She didn't answer the door, but I think about a 10-year-old girl came to the door, and I'm assuming maybe that was her daughter. But anyway, I wound up preaching the gospel to her, and she got saved. So it was just like, if they didn't get saved, they at least let us preach the gospel to them. It was really, really good. But then Michael had a little bit different experience. He went up to the top of the hill, and there were some drunks there, and they started acting up and pushing people, I think, and yelling at them. There was a kid that was throwing snowballs, and that guy should have been a pitcher in the major leagues, because he could throw like from a long ways off and like accurate too. And then he started, well, as we were leaving, because they were just wanting to fight with us and stuff, so we just decided to leave. But as we were leaving, the one, I think it must have been a rock or a hard ice ball, he threw it and hit the top of Michael's car and made a big dent in there. But we didn't stop and get out because they might have done worse things. But I mean, there was, I think reprobate kids there that were propositioning and different weird stuff like that. So we just got out of there. So that was day 1. That was Saturday when we were there. And then we went out for supper with the guys and went to the hotel, checked in. And then, just like you do before you go to bed sometimes, well, actually you usually don't, there's a new documentary that came out called Demon Possessed, and we watched that. It was kind of a scary movie, but it was a scriptural, in view of the Bible, what some of these people call schizophrenia and different stuff like that. The next day, they had scoped out a church. They called the pastor, and it sounded like he was right on salvation. But it happened just at that town was an hour time difference. So we thought we were early, and we wound up being 45 minutes late. So instead of going to church, we went soul winning. But before we went there, we thought we had some time. There's a casino right beside the hotel. They were like a mile or 2 away, and behind there's some houses, and we went soul winning there. First house I went to, the guy let us talk, but he wasn't really interested. He was more interested in his traditional ways. And at a different house, a lady came out in socks and not a jacket or anything. And the guy was with Doug Trowbridge. He's a good brother, but he is very thorough. He takes a lot of time to preach the gospel, and it's good because then they have no doubt what it means. And she was getting cold, so he takes off his jacket. He's from Texas. He doesn't even used to this cold. Takes off his jacket, lets her wear it while he preaches the gospel to her and gets her saved. So that was good. Yeah. So then we went to the town of St. Francis. First house I went to, there was just a bunch of drunks. They wanted to talk about all sorts of stuff, and we just left. Second house that I preached the gospel, to 1 or 2 people saved. 2 people prayed, but 1 we're doubtful for, so we didn't count that one. And like these reserves, the houses are in pretty bad shape. Like one of the other houses we went to that day, there's big holes in the drywall, and like the flooring's missing and everything, and it's pretty bad shape. But Doug preached the gospel to one teenager there, and later his uncle came, and they both got saved, so that was good. And then, of course, the last lady we went to, she was a strong Catholic. And then there's a snowstorm coming in, and the guys being from Texas, they were kind of worried about it, so they left to Rapid City. So me and Michael left home, for home. So in summary, I mean, it was very receptive. The res dogs left us alone, except for, they wanted to be petted sometimes and stuff, but they didn't bite us. We had good fellowship. Day 1 and day 2, before me and Michael and I showed up, they got 49 people saved. Day 3, that was the first day we were there, 41 got saved. Day 4, 20 got saved. That's the day that kind of got broken up a little bit because of that snowstorm that was coming. And day 5, when we were not there anymore, 23 got saved. So 133 salvations with 8 soul winners. So like, just think of how receptive that is. And the reason I'm telling you this is not to brag on us, because obviously it's God's word that has the power. It's not our explanation. But I want you guys to know how receptive it is, because in summer they're doing another trip. And as many as, I know some of you guys wanted to come and it didn't work out, but as many as you guys can, I would really suggest going to that, because our experience at least was very receptive. Because even in that place where we got chased out with snowballs and whatever, I think we wound up getting like 20 people saved or something there, right? Like in that location. So anyway, when Tony asked me to bring this to you guys for a while, I don't know if I could stretch it out for 5 minutes. I started writing things out, and I don't know if I got to 5 minutes. But